So it's still just us right here for now. They can just
Okay.
log in.
Quick question, guys. Like, I don't know what's going on with Evan with your resolution. I want to apologize. I did not mean to open up a can of worms.
You're okay, Tiffany. Don't worry about it. I talked to Scott too on the phone, and it'll be what it'll be. It's fine.
Okay, that was not my intention. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that I had been contacted.
Tiffany, I don't think it was you, so you're fine.
Okay, I just want to put it out there.
I personally blame Jeff Bromagem.
I do too. That guy's the worst.
Let's blame Jeff for everything. I just tried. Yeah, Brenda's having some trouble. So, Gordon, can you private chat me the phone details and I'll send that to her also?
Yes.
Man, Rocket Ship came and has already raised their hand.
Yikes.
7 o'clock on the dot. That was quick.
Okay. I have my neighbor's toddler here. Well, she's not a toddler anymore, but she's here. So I'm gonna just mute so in case they come to get her, you don't hear.
Gordon, is there any way to send a message to those who are logged in that we're just waiting for a quorum and then we'll open it up?
Yep.
Do we have many waiting?
We have some people waiting. I just wouldn't, since it's 7, I don't want them to.
Totally.
24 people waiting and 2 hands up already. Dolly Turner has her hand up.
Keyshawn says not to turn on his camera. Okay.
Is there a way we can force the camera turn on?
If mine were working, I would turn it on. But I thought, Aaron, my friend Mark said he's here.
Yeah, that's fine. They're on. It's just we're not connected yet until we have a.
Oh, that's why I'm getting. Okay, all right.
Can you?
Oh, it's from the chat. That's why. Okay.
Gordon, can you relabel Perry to be Perry?
Is he on here?
Yeah.
Why is everyone me?
Because when you send around the reminder, it's just your personal login.
Yeah, fine. I just wanted to make sure people had it.
I can hear you, Perry. I heard your mic test.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can hear you, but hold the mic closer to your mouth.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Whoa.
There we go. Yeah.
I'm gonna try calling Brenda and see what's going on.
Because my speaker is just so.
Gordon, do you have the link to the virtual meeting materials? Can you send that around too?
Wait, let's make sure everyone's on first. Allison says that she's here, but we can't hear her.
She's not in the panelist. She's somewhere else. She must be in the general attendees. I can see her in the attendees list.
I'll send it to her.
No, I just promoted her. She should pop up. Allison Brooks. She should just pop up.
Okay. Let me just tell her.
Thank you.
Hey, Allison.
We can't hear Brenda, so something's going on there.
And the fancy virtual background.
Well, you don't want to see my basement.
I mean, I'm on my patio to hide from my kids, so gotta do what you gotta do.
I locked myself in the basement basically, but it's not, ANC appropriate.
Well, if people wonder why I have a jacket on, it's because I'm outside, so.
So Leroy is calling me. I'm guessing she's trying to get on. Hold on. Hello.
I will message all the people who are
She
wondering.
can hear us, but we can't hear her. So I guess you need to make her a panelist. Hold on, Leroy.
Should I shave?
What number are you calling from, Leroy?
Give me the last few digits.
301715. Give me the rest.
301.
8592. That's LaRoya Huff. Oh, no. That's what you dial, but they need to make you a presenter.
Yeah, I need give me the last 3 digits of her number, the one she's calling
What number
from.
are you calling from?
Gordon, I have Brenda too. Yeah.
2427, she said. Okay, say
Hello?
something. Okay, you're on now.
Oh, good. Okay.
All right, I'm
Thank
hanging
you,
up my
guys.
phone.
Gordon, I have Brenda's number. She's by telephone also. The last 4 digits are 2557.
I love this. We get to see everybody's basements.
Or studios.
I threw up a fancy tablecloth to cover ourselves.
Okay, cool. I really had thought I got the whole camera thing settled.
Gordon, did you find Brenda?
Yeah, she should be able to talk now.
Brenda,
Oh,
are
I
you
see.
on?
I see her. 557.
Yep. Brenda, can you hear us? You're here. Let me try her on the phone. Brenda, we have you on the phone. Can you hear us? We can't seem to hear you. Okay, all right, we got you. Okay, bye.
Oh, got it.
Okay, Brenda is gonna just try and log in again. Scott, I think, is logged in as me if you can rename him. Scott Knickerbocker.
One
Hyphen Palmer.
T in Scott. Who has it? 427?
LaRoya.
LaRoya?
Latoya.
So
Hey,
who,
whatever that noise was, we all could hear it. So, like, I don't know whether it's hold music or ringtone or. I just wanted to let you know.
To come in.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to warn you that it was broadcasting to everybody, so you weren't taken by surprise.
What do you mean, the beat that comes in?
Yeah.
who are we missing here?
Call somebody. Where's your phone?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we're just missing Brenda.
I just heard her, right?
Is that her?
Isn't Brenda 557?
Yeah.
Yes, did you hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we
ma'am.
got you. We got you. So then everybody's on, I think.
Hold on 1 second and we'll start.
Saturday Night Live. But
Let's see. Is that a little better?
Oh, shit. Okay, I'll turn that down.
I'm just plugging in the live stream information so it'll broadcast.
How can I tell who has their hands raised?
They have blue
Oh,
buttons.
it's right by their name.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. Okay.
Guess I should drink a drink of my drink before we start and the world can see me drinking.
Allison, I like when you move a certain way, you appear to just be a floating head.
Yeah.
is somebody
I'm trying to
upside
sit
down?
so that you can see me better. Let's see. There we go.
When it's just your head floating around.
Yeah, I think that's kind of spooky.
I like it.
Scott, are you upside down?
Yes.
Yes,
He's
I
upside
am.
down.
Also, Perry, for me or
I flipped myself.
Okay.
So interestingly, we have people on this list that aren't even Ward 4 residents.
Yeah, we were thinking that for when people speak, if they could identify their single member district, if they know it, that might be helpful since we might have a broader group of participants. I'm going to just write to everyone that we're going to be starting soon so they know when they're in the right place. Is that okay?
Yep.
Could you include the link to the virtual meeting materials too?
If you give it to me.
I will chat it to you right now.
Hi, baby. Uh-huh.
We're good to go.
Okay, great. Brenda, do you want to open up the meeting?
Am I muted?
Brenda, are you on?
Hi, baby. You can play with it, honey.
Checking if she's here. Hey, Gordon, is there any issue with Brenda's sound from the telephone dial-in?
Is she 427, the last 3 digits?
She's 557. She's not on.
Hello?
Brenda. She's
Okay, she's echoing.
yeah.
I have something going on here.
I'm just checking with her real quick. We have kind of a slow start here, but we should get started shortly. Allison, are you able to take the lead given the sound issues on during the meeting?
I'm sure if Brenda's comfortable with that.
Yep, she has given her okay.
Okay, sure.
Great.
Hold on, let me pull up my agenda so I'm completely prepared. Okay. So before we start, Gordon, you're adhering to the time limits, right? So I don't have to be worried about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else I need to know if I'm sharing that I have to do besides just run the meeting from a technical standpoint?
Yep, just run the meeting.
Okay. I'm ready.
If you, all right. So everyone who's attending, hello, my name is Gordon Chaffin. I'm an AV producer helping ANC 4B out tonight. If you are joining this meeting via phone, please note that you are muted right now. You can raise your hand, quote unquote, to ask to speak by dialing *9. That will give us a little blue hand notification on the mobile app and web platform so we know to call on you. If you have any questions, drop them into the chat box, which everyone using the app, mobile and computer, have. We can also take questions through the Q&A feature, and the only difference between those two is that the Q&A feature, your question is private until a commissioner decides to answer the question. At that point, everybody in the meeting can know what's happening. And any questions with AV stuff, drop in the chat and I'll help.
Okay, so at this time, I would like to thank everyone for attending our first virtual meeting. I'm sure it will be an interesting experience for everyone. So we're going to call the meeting to order and start with roll call.
Okay. Just so folks know, I'm also in the minutes document and on the screen. So if I'm a little slow going back and forth, that's why. 4B01.
Present.
4B02 present. 4B03.
Present.
4B04 is Brenda. She's definitely here. 4B05. Harry, do we got you?
He's muted.
I see him, but he's muted.
Perry, write in the chat that you're here because we can't hear you.
I'm
Yeah, let us know.
I'm sorry. I was.
There you go.
We got you. You're here.
Listen, my car was stolen, and MPD, their processes are just absolutely atrocious. I didn't want to say that publicly. I wanted to first go through the process.
Okay.
All right, let's everybody else check in.
Okay.
06?
4B06.
Present.
4B07.
Present.
4B08.
I am present.
4B09.
Present.
Okay, so we have everyone here and we have a quorum.
Right. Also, just so everyone is clear, my role as vice chair, I am the vice chair and Brenda is the chair, and she is on the meeting but is having some technical difficulties. So you should feel free to, speak to Brenda and we'll see what we can do to get a response through the technical difficulty if you may need to.
She said that she can hear us. So if she has a question or a comment, she will text me and I can read it to the group.
Perfect. Okay, so we are going to begin with a few administrative items, the instructions with regard to this meeting, and then we'll go on to approve the agenda. Who's providing the instructions, or does Gordon feel like he's already done that?
Yeah, Gordon, I think if you could give just a few preliminary words on how it will work for participants to comment on agenda items and during the community comment portion, that would be helpful.
Sure. So like with a regular ANC meeting, everyone will wait until the commissioners have discussed something. During community comments or concerns, raise your hand. Again, *9 if you're dialing in on phone, or there is at the bottom of your window in the application, there's a raise hand button. And we will call on those. You will have 1 minute to speak, and I'll be keeping time. And let you know when you're out of time. Other than that, traditional conference call etiquette applies. If you're speaking, unmute yourself. If you're not speaking, mute yourself.
I think it would be most helpful if when participants speak, if you introduce yourself by name and if you know your single member district. That's helpful for us to keep track of information as the meeting progresses.
Okay, I think we've covered the introductory items. We have an agenda which was provided to everyone via our website, as well as being emailed to distribution lists. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Okay. Commissioners, if there are no necessary additions or deletions from the agenda, I'll accept a motion to move forward.
I make a motion to move forward with the agenda as written.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so next would be the review of the February minutes, which were also posted to our website. And were they distributed with the agenda, Erin? Or just posted to the website?
I think Evan is the best person to answer that question.
They were distributed with the agenda, but not posted to the website because we don't post meeting minutes to the website until they're finalized. They will
Okay,
go live
fair
as
enough.
soon as we vote to approve them, as
Fair
always.
enough. So take a moment to review the minutes as presented. And if there are any corrections, additions, deletions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I move to accept as drafted.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposition? Okay, motion passes. Next would be the treasurer's report. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I've distributed the treasurer's report a couple times. It's been live on our website now in draft form. And as it states, we we ended the second quarter of our fiscal year 2020 with a balance of $23,802.68. So we continue to be timely in submitting our quarterly reports. We still don't have any expenses since we no longer have a staff person or an office. So we're well positioned. That is the quarterly report. Since we don't have much in the way of expenses, there's not much to report.
Well,
So
thank
it's
you.
very simple.
Is there a motion to accept the report as presented? Jeff?
I will move to accept the motion or
Thank
to
you.
accept the report.
Is there a second?
I
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposition?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Are there any individual commissioner updates? We can go in order 1 to 9 if there are. Please let me know.
I believe that Commissioner Johnson has an update.
Yes. Are any other commissioners, do you want to go first or can I just?
You can jump in.
Okay. So as you know, last month I put on the agenda, and it was on the consent calendar, a resolution regarding concerns with the MPD's use of the social media platform known as Nextdoor. I did have a meeting with them last week, and it was a very interesting meeting. It appears that they are not going to be using it as a way for individuals to report non-emergency crimes. They are just using it as another mechanism in which to provide information to the community. So I've asked them to either restate their position or amend their position. I'm waiting for that information to come through, but in the interim, they have stated that they are not going to be entertaining any calls for services based on anything that has been entered into the system. So I feel like that's a win for us in that respect, because we were concerned about it being abused. And they were very willing to listen to me and the concerns that I had, and were apologetic for the fact that their initial statement was taken out of context for what they wanted to do.
Okay, thank you for that update, Tiffany. Do any other commissioners have updates that they'd like to present at this time?
Allison, I have something briefly.
Go ahead.
I had some communications with East Rock Creek Village, which is a senior village within the commission's boundaries.
Mhm.
They wanted me to share that they have waived their membership fees for the next several months if folks are interested in joining and taking advantage of their services, which include delivery of grocery items and some things along those lines. So people should be aware of that. Bread for the City also reached out to me and said that they are offering groceries for seniors. So they're another resource if people have needs along those lines.
Wonderful. Okay.
Could I just add a note too, while we're here, in terms of old business? This isn't a 4B07 thing, but I think the public should be aware that the commission worked really hard on the resolution that we passed in January, providing feedback on the comprehensive plan, the amended comprehensive plan. And we got response on that. They took some of our advice. They acknowledged some of it and didn't take some of it. But I think that, it's something that we all worked really hard on, and we should, I haven't taken enough time to really fully understand what they took and didn't, and maybe others have, but I think that that's something that we should look into it as a commission and maybe post publicly so people can see how the Office of Planning responded to what we said.
It's available on their website, and I will share it in the chat with everybody.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't realize. Thank you, Evan.
Great. So I also have an update from SMD 408. We've been working with the Department of Transportation with regard to the intersection at North Capitol and Longfellow Streets Northwest. We are trying to find ways to resolve the number of accidents that have been happening at that intersection. And we did have a meeting in the past week, and we hope to see a plan with regard to that in the next few weeks. So that's just an update for the SMD members that are on the call tonight. Does anyone else have an update? If not, we can move to the next item, which I believe is our first presentation. Going once, going twice. Okay, we will now hear from LaDawn White and Rachel Call with the the District Board of Elections.
Rachel, you've been unmuted.
Hi,
Are
can
you
hear me?
there? Wonderful. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, I'm sorry I declined the video option, but I
That's
just
okay.
got out of the shower and I wasn't prepared for video, so now you know.
That's wonderful. I understand. It's not a problem.
Okay, so thanks for having us, and it's actually just me. LaDawn may be on the call, but we're not together.
Okay.
So in any case, just to bring you all up to date, first of all, we're glad to be asked, and thank you in advance for spreading information out on our behalf, because we're really just trying to make sure all our registered voters know what our processes are moving forward in light of the adjustments that we had to make to the June 2nd primary election in light of COVID-19 and our efforts to keep voters and poll workers safe. So as you know, we are an independent agency, and we definitely consulted with members of the mayor's staff and the DC Council. But really, we've arrived at this decision based on our expertise and experience in administering elections, and what we feel is both going to strike the balance best between keeping voters safe and also creating a very reliable vote that can be safely cast in a way that we are familiar with and can administer well. This was a factor in not moving to an automatic mail ballot process at this stage. We consulted with a number of national partners who do automatic all mail. And given what I know you all understand to be the very specific ballot styles that are incredibly different, but subtly different, and can be easily given to the wrong voter depending upon just the very delicate ANC differentials between each ballot, it would have been close to a 10-year process, frankly, to perfect an all-mail system. So we are using the request process for what has been our no excuse absentee ballot process for the last 10 years. And we are relying on you and voters and doing a whole lot of social media, newspaper, anyone that will interview us, we're trying to meet with, just trying to press the information out that it is still incumbent upon voters to request their absentee ballots, but we are encouraging them to do that now as soon as they can to get their ballot mailed to them promptly. That said, we will also, I imagine everybody else is aware, but Election Day is June 2nd. There's also a special election, which doesn't really apply to this meeting, but a Ward 2 special election on June 16th. As I mentioned, our hard press is request your absentee ballot. Make that request now. Applications are literally everywhere they could possibly be. They are on our website. You can apply directly online. You can print a PDF and mail it to us. You can print a PDF and fax it or email it to us. You can also download our mobile app, Vote for DC, and apply for your absentee ballot that way. You can also, if all of those methods fail, send a letter to the board requesting your absentee ballot. We just need your name, your date of birth, the address where you're registered, the address where you want your ballot sent, if that's a different address, and the elections for which you want an absentee ballot. So right now you can request the June 2nd primary, and the general in November, or you can ask to be placed on our permanent absentee voter list, and then you would automatically receive mail ballots for every election moving forward. You can also call the board to request your absentee ballot. I'll send out a PowerPoint presentation after this meeting so that you all can have this information, but the phone number, if you want to call the board or your constituents want to call the board, is 202-741-5283. They will, if you call that number during regular business hours, they will mail you an application, which you need to then mail back. Also, our voter guides will be going out in the coming week or so, and each voter guide contains 2 absentee ballot request forms and 1 postage paid envelope for you to send that back. So we are pumping out the forms as much as we can. And like I said, they are available on our website right now. If you want to apply or hand out applications, please feel free. As you may have heard, the signature requirement on the application form has been temporarily waived for the June 2nd primary in consideration of folks who don't necessarily have printers at home. So you can fill out the application online, save it as a PDF, and email it back to our office. That will sufficiently request your absentee ballot as well. We are treating in-person voting as an option of last resort. We are really encouraging anybody who is able to vote by mail to do so, and only holding our vote centers really in place for individuals who require accessible voting equipment. That said, instead of the traditional 140, it would have been 144 precincts this year. Instead of those being open on election day, we will instead have 20 vote centers throughout the city, 2 or 3 per ward, depending upon the size of the ward. And they will be open from May 22nd until June 2nd, except for on Memorial Day when they will be closed. The hours of operation are 8:30 until 7 p.m. every day, except for election day when they'll be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, those dates are May 22nd through June 2nd. The email address, if you'd like to send us your absentee ballot request, is dcabsentee@dcboe.org. I think I mentioned that earlier. The fax number, again, I'll send this all out so you don't need to scramble to write these things down if it's not convenient. The fax number, though, is 202-347-2648. And that's really, I mean, I'm happy to take any questions, but that is the gist of our presentation. We are encouraging, as I said, everybody to request their mail-in ballot. We think it's the safest and the most secure method of getting your voice heard in this election on June 2nd. So we hope you will help us by encouraging your neighbors, your friends, your family, your constituents to vote by mail this year. Thank you.
Rachel, we received one question in the chat, and we have a resident that requested a application 5 weeks ago and never received any confirmation. Filled out the form multiple times on different dates. I've heard others having similar issues across the city.
Mm-hmm.
How do you?
Yeah, so we did have some issues with our email confirmation, and I realized that it's like, if no one said you were going to get a confirmation, it wouldn't necessarily be unsettling. But when you see in there, the confirmation email will be sent to you and then you don't get one, it is unsettling. That said, we are assured by our vendor applications are being processed, even if you haven't received confirmation. As you might imagine, we've received a lot of applications in the last couple weeks since we've really been pushing this Vote Safe DC campaign, which is the sort of name for this package that I just described to you. So certainly if the person submitted the application and didn't receive an error message, but simply just didn't receive a confirmation email, rest assured your application is being processed. That said, if you don't have a ballot by the second or third week of May, please do give our office a call at that number. The deadline for requesting an absentee ballot is May 26th. That's to make sure there's more than enough time for it to be mailed out to you and for you to mail it back. And I should mention here, the deadline for receipt of the absentee ballot is June 9th. So as long as it's postmarked on election day and received in our office by June 9th, your vote will be counted.
Okay, that actually leads directly into the next question we received, which is that in other cities, all mail elections have secure boxes into which voters can deposit their ballot instead of using the United Postal Service. Will that be an option in DC for the June 2nd primary?
If voters want to bring their absentee ballot to one of the vote centers and drop it off there, that's an option. But we are not placing secure boxes throughout the city other than the mailboxes. So the voters have the option of either sending it back by mail or bringing it to a vote center during that voting period of May 22nd to June 2nd.
All right, thank you very much. Evan, I hate to put you on the spot, but is it possible for us to add the form to the website? I already have my absentee ballot request form. Is that something that we can add to our website and then direct our constituents there to print or download?
Yeah, but I think it's probably better to link directly to the Vote for DC website, the BOE, because then that way it's always the latest version, and we don't take on the responsibility of making sure it's up to date, and we leave it with the agency in charge. So, but I'm happy to make sure that link gets posted somehow so that people can find it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, yes, commissioners, I'm sorry. I asked my question of Evan and didn't ask you if you had any questions. Aaron, please go.
Sure. I had a resident contact me and raise the question of how absentee ballots will be counted. So they noted that in elections, sometimes absentee ballots aren't counted if they're not deemed to be influential in one way or another. And I thought it was important to reassure them that absentee ballots will be counted in this election.
Yes, they will definitely be counted. The only way they wouldn't be counted is if, as always, if there were some issue where a voter requested an absentee ballot and then went to the precinct, or in this case, the vote center, and voted live, and they were marked as absentee ballot requested. They receive a ballot and they vote essentially twice, one of those two ballots, but presumably it would be the special ballot unless a mailing, like unless I'm trying to think of the example that it would be, but if the mailed ballot came in after the special ballot, like if it came in on say June 12th and they'd already voted by special ballot, then their special ballot would be counted and their absentee ballot would not. But that's the only situation I can think of where an absentee, or if an absentee ballot in general came in late and there were no special ballot situation, right? So if it's not in our office by June 9th, it's not going to be counted. But even in situations where there's an error, I mean, we're encouraging every voter to be very clear and careful to sign that envelope that their ballot comes back in. But even if that's missing, we do our very best to reach out to people to make sure that they can correct and have their ballot counted. So yeah, absentee ballots are definitely counted here in DC. And I should mention, I thought I did, but in case I skipped over it, there will also be applications going out as a part of our voter guide in 2 places, as well as a postage paid envelope that can be used to return it. I can't remember if I said that or not, but I just wanted to make sure. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Can I ask another one?
Sure.
Um,
Running the meeting, but sure.
and you touched on this. If someone requests an absentee ballot but then decides to go vote in person, does that create challenges? Is that problematic?
They would be treated as an absentee ballot requested voter. So just like in a normal election, if they requested an absentee ballot and then showed up at a precinct, they would log in or check in and they would be marked absentee ballot requested. So they would in all likelihood be asked to vote by special ballot. And special ballots are counted as long as we don't find out that there are 2 ballots for the same voter, one special ballot, one that's been mailed back. So yeah, it shouldn't cause a problem. It just means we have to keep a lookout for 2 ballots.
Thank you.
Yeah, question here. What allowances are being made for elderly folks? I heard you talk about.
Perry, I'm having great difficulty hearing you. I'm not sure if others are, but you might want to speak up.
All right. Hopefully you can hear this. I'm asking a question about elderly voters, and I heard you mention converting to a PDF or scan as a PDF. And you know, my mother's 78, and I guess if you know I'm there to help her, then fine. But some of my constituents are elderly and live alone. What provisions are made for these elderly residents, if any?
Yeah, so we are, as I mentioned, sending out the voter guide with 2 applications. It's literally like the first or second page of it's the second page once you open the voter guide up, which is an application, and then there's one at the back as well. So every registered voter will get a voter guide. We are also, I mean, we have historically partnered with a number of nursing homes throughout the city where we've done, as you may know, in-person absentee voting, and members of the board's outreach team go to these facilities and help voters cast their ballots and then bring them back. Obviously, because of the pandemic and different quarantines throughout the city, we are unable to do that this election cycle, but we've reached out to every facility that we've worked with in the past to offer them the option of essentially sending them pre-filled absentee ballot request forms for all of their residents so that they can then just facilitate the return process by their residents if they want to make that request. So those are the 2 things that we're doing in terms of getting those applications out to members of the elderly community, but we're also you know, doing as much as we can to advertise and make sure, including running TV commercials with phone numbers where folks can call. That's why the call option is so important. Because I hear you. I don't even, my parents printed one out and mailed it back, and I was like amazed that they got it together. So, but I think for individuals who just rely on the use of their phone to call and be able to have one directly mailed to them is also an option that's always available.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Allison, you're muted.
Yep, I got it. I'm sorry. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Nope. Wonderful. Residents, constituents, if you do have a question, please remember to enter your question in the chat area and we will get an answer to your question. Rachel, thank you for joining our first virtual commission meeting. We appreciate it.
No problem. I'm going to sign off if that's okay. You all can distribute my email address personally as rcole@dcboe.org. And we can also be reached at info@votesafedc.com. So if any questions come up throughout your call or after, you can feel free to email me always.
1 second, something just popped up, it looks like. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's good. Okay, and again, I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. Residents, please, if you have a question besides typing it in, click the raise your hand button to be acknowledged.
And I think I just saw someone say that was fast. Repeat, please. So my email is rcoll, C-O-L-L, @dcboe, like for Board of Elections.org. And the other one is info at, all one word, votesafedc.com.
Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you. You guys as well. Thanks so much.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the District Department of Aging and Community Living.
Can the representative from that agency please raise their hand?
Name is Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Mark. Mark appears to be muted.
Am I muted?
Not now.
We
Oh,
hear you,
awesome.
but it's kind of quiet on my end.
Okay, I'm wearing a headset. Maybe it's better if I try to take the headset out. Hang on. Is that any better?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good. Okay, so I don't have to wear something in my ears. That's awesome. Is there a way that I can turn on my camera? Not that it's all that important, but I don't know how to.
Sure, at the bottom of your screen. Well, Gordon, why don't you explain it? You're the guru.
Sure. At the bottom of your screen there should be the microphone icon and mute, and then immediately to the right there should be a start video button.
No, I'm afraid not. I've got a little up arrow and it just gives me options for the microphone. I don't have any video option whatsoever. And then, you know, a few inches over, it gives me Q&A, chat, lower hand, etc., but no video option. It's okay. I mean, you know, you don't need to see my 2 months without a haircut. I'm fine. All right.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Sure, thank you. And the invitation is always welcome. Thank you for the invitation. It is gracious. So my name is Mark Bjorgi. I'm a fellow Ward 4 resident, although ANC 4A, so a neighbor, not in your ANC. And I'm with the Department on Aging and Community Living. I'm in the communication shop there. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention to the Department on Aging over the last year or so, we were the Office on Aging, it seems like forever ago, and now we're a department, and our portfolio of responsibilities has expanded with that shift from an office to a department. We picked up adult protective services. So we now have additional folks on staff who look after seniors, and we feel it's a natural fit. The Department on Aging and Community Living, just in brief, our responsibility is to provide care and support for DC residents aged 60 and up, DC residents aged 18 to 59 living with disabilities, and caregivers for either of those two aforementioned groups. And then also now, adults who are at risk of abuse and/or exploitation. And those categories overlap somewhat, but not entirely. So it's important to call them out individually. One of the broad categories of services we provide is community-based supports through our senior wellness centers and community dining sites, our recreation programs at those locations, and then also at apartment buildings and Department of Parks and Recreation facilities around the city, and our adult day health programs. But given that, you know, the thrust of those things is to combat social isolation, which in normal times is a very bad thing for seniors, we've had to suspend them. So that is the big change to our operating status. We've suspended activity at our wellness centers and dining sites. We've suspended our social and recreation programs, except in a virtual sense, which I'll talk about. And we've suspended our adult day health programs in keeping with the health emergency. We're not trying to get seniors together at this present time. But we are continuing our services. We're continuing them in a virtual way. We've expanded our home delivered meal portfolio to include the folks who so desire, who were at our community dining sites and in our wellness centers. And we've added on to that group as well. And we now have approximately 3,600 folks we're doing home delivered meals to. So that's a considerable expansion. Not quite a doubling, but you know, significantly up from the roughly 2,000, 2,200 previous. And these are once per week deliveries. Generally speaking, we're providing a week's worth of meals in a day, and they've been frozen, so that's a good thing. What else? We've expanded the use of our information and referral line, which I really should mention is 202-724-5626. This line, 202-724-5626, really should be your first point of contact if you are a senior or if you have concerns about a DC senior or an adult with disabilities or somebody who may be at risk of exploitation and abuse. We've expanded the use of that line to add a call and talk feature. And that's part of how we're trying to virtually combat isolation. We know that a lot of us are sort of holed up in our houses. And, you know, I have to think of my own mom who's 83 in Alexandria. You know, she lives in a condo, she's not going out. And I'm worried about her. And, you know, you best believe that I'm calling her, but not everyone has someone to do that. So we have a call and talk line that people can access through that 724-5626 number. And we're also making outbound calls to seniors who sign up for this. We have folks who are getting regular check-in calls, and they're not just, you know, check-in, how's your health, how's your welfare, but also some level of companionship. In addition, we have to maintain some real world services, not virtual services. Our adult protective service folks are still active in the field, and some of our social workers are still active in the field. They have to be in order to, you know, take care of people. And then aside from expanding our home delivered meals, we're also continuing with some of our assistance in assisting people process benefits applications to the extent possible without face-to-face meetings. And then also I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Channel 16 has exercise video opportunities for seniors through YMCA that we're funding. So that was kind of a long discourse on my part, and I'll pause and ask if there's any questions.
Mark, this is Erin. Are there any website materials you want me to share via the share screen function at this time?
Oh my gosh, Erin, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. I think that the real website that I would like folks to be aware of is the coronavirus.dc.gov website. And this is a super important website. It contains a whole bunch of information that would be useful to people in the current health emergency. Everything from how to get food resources, to how to get testing, to a phone number to call if you feel as though you may need in-home support because you've been medically quarantined. And, you know, I should say, I am no longer really tasked to DACL. In an interim basis, I'm working on the coronavirus quarantine hotline. And that's that number that you see there, the 888-349 number. If you know of people who are either they've received a positive test or they are in a home environment with somebody else who has either received a positive test or are receiving symptoms, if you know of people who are truly medically quarantined, that number can be a real godsend because we're able to get food delivered and sanitary supplies like, you know, toilet paper and other things, mental health counseling. And it's intended for folks who are under true medical quarantine or otherwise fragile. We'll get folks who have compromised immune systems, you know, due to HIV status or chemotherapy who can call that number as well. And there's an assessment process, and we're able to provide some help. That online option below the phone number works much the same way, but if people don't have internet access, the phone number is staffed with people like me.
Hey, Mark, this is Tiffany Johnson. First and foremost, thank you so much for calling in. I do appreciate it. I've gotten conflicting information, so I wanted to hear it kind of straight from you. There is now a shorter process for seniors and individuals who meet the requirements to receive meals delivered directly to them from the DC Office on Aging and Community Living?
So we have loosened up our meal requirements to some extent, but there is still an assessment process that folks have to go through. So not everyone over the age of 60 is going to, you know, necessarily qualify for home delivered meals from us, but we have loosened the requirements, and we have our nutritionist doing the assessments. So I would encourage folks to call us, and if they are in need, you know, definitely we want to hear from them. But as you can imagine, there's 115,000 or something seniors in the district, so we're not providing meals to everyone. For the Department on Aging, the 724-5626 number is the appropriate number to call to see, you know, to check out and see if you can receive meals from Department on Aging. But of course, you know, folks who are medically fragile, compromised immune system, or otherwise may have a coronavirus infection or be living with someone who does, can use the 888 number. They don't have to be seniors.
Okay, so the 724 is for specifically for aging community living population. The 188 number is for others who might not meet your specific classification, but have otherwise been exposed or need assistance.
Yeah. So okay. the 888 number, the coronavirus hotline, is for anyone who has a reason to medically quarantine. You know,
Okay,
they have a pre-existing health issue that may come into play, or they are displaying symptoms, or they're in a household with somebody who's displaying symptoms, or they've had a diagnosis.
okay. Thank you for that.
Are there any other questions from commissioners or
I
Mark?
have a quick
Yes, Leroya Hunt for B09. I want to say thank you as well to you, Mark, for the great outreach that the Department on Aging and Community Living is doing. I want to also say that Terrific Inc., which falls under your umbrella, has advised that folks in Ward 4 contact them at 202-882-1160. So they're doing the screening process. I did speak to Laura Newland, and she preferred that they be rolled in through Terrific, who's doing it for Ward 4. So that's another option. They can call 882-1160. Terrific
Thank you,
Inc., our Ward
Leroya.
4. Yes.
Leroya, I'm sorry, because I'm just typing this out to all of the attendees. Terrific Inc.
So
is they're the Ward 4 liaison or Ward 4 provider.
Liaison. Yes.
Yes.
For under Department on Aging and Community Living.
Okay.
So their number is the 202-882-1160. And they've been working really hard to get people screened, processed, rolled over, and boxes are delivered.
Thank you.
And I'm sure Dolly Turner will speak to the council members' effort as well in the interim. But we do in Ward 4 have options for our seniors, and as well the groceries that seniors can get on Wednesday. They have 300 boxes of groceries. And so that starts from 12:30 till 2. And there also is another number that Keyshawn can speak to and give out, so that if you're homebound, you can't get out, you can call and they're delivering groceries. But again, on Wednesday, every Wednesday at Coolidge, people can get in line there. And I think it's not just open to seniors, it's open to the community. But if you find yourself homebound, can't get out, there's a number that they can call, and groceries can be delivered as well. The council member's office is also delivering. Just so you know, that the ward is really working together to take care of our residents.
Thank you, Leroya. Aaron, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I just was wondering if for the meals via Department of Aging, if there's anywhere that the criteria for the program is available publicly that I could direct people to.
I don't have the criteria, posted anywhere, and I apologize for that. In general, it has to do with risk and need.
Any other questions from commissioners? Constituents, if you have questions, please feel free to click on the raise your hand button and we'll acknowledge you at that time. Okay, well, Mark, thank you very much for presenting.
Thank you.
You provided some wonderful information. You what?
Okay, so it's off topic, but I'd really like to say that while folks are practicing their social isolation, and maybe they have a few extra moments, Ward 4 is falling behind the national average in the census count. And of course, I'm a big booster of Ward 4, as we are. And what we really want to do is we want to make sure that, we go ahead and participate in the census. I know everyone has been getting their mailing, and you can take the census by phone. If you need to, you don't have to do it online if you don't have a computer. And the phone number is 844-3 844-330-2020. 844-330-2020. And you know, you're going to be seeing a lot of news stories about the census timeline slipping and being pushed back and pushed back. And you know, what's really important is that DC gets counted.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Next
Bye
on our
now.
agenda is the Ward for Mutual Aid. Representative Ms. Henson, are you on the line? She is here. Can you make her a presenter, please, Gordon?
Gordon, it's Zoila Henson.
You.
Oh, she was here.
Oh,
She's
no, there
here.
she
She
is.
raised her hand.
Okay.
Miss
All
Henson,
right.
you should be able to speak now.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Great.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And actually, thank you also for having the gentleman from the Department on Aging. I was taking notes on some of what he was saying. Yeah, hi, my name is Zoila Henson. I'm with the Ward 4 Mutual Aid Network. And we're a group of Ward 4 residents who started organizing right around the time that we all started quarantining and staying home. And basically what we do is we run a hotline that people can call mostly if they need groceries. We deliver groceries from a supply depot that we try to keep really stocked. And we try to give people what they ask for. We're not always able to do that exactly, and we are sort of restricted by what is available. So, you know, if no one can get toilet paper, we can't get toilet paper either. In April, we made deliveries to 574 families, or 1,902 people. That's as of yesterday. And almost exactly of the third of the people who called were Spanish speakers. So it's 34.3%. Our hotline is open 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we make deliveries from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday. So we take Mondays off. And yeah, we don't really have any criteria for who can call us. We're open to everyone, and people can call more than once. We would also really love for people to get involved. So I'm gonna drop the volunteer sign up and the GoFundMe into the chat, if I am able to send it to everyone, which I'm not sure. Can I send it to everyone in attendees? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. And I'm also going to share some just sort of financials because we are just an independent group. That should be linked to some financial information about us. So as of yesterday, we've raised $30,283, and we have spent $16,271. Of that, $16,066 has been on groceries, $950 has been on bank transfers for PayPal, and then we did provide some financial assistance in gas for one of our shoppers. So that's 98.7% of our funds are going directly to purchase groceries and supplies. So we aren't getting paid, yeah, we've just been really excited to get involved in this work. And yeah, we love actually more people. If you're able to volunteer, that can be making deliveries, but it can also be remotely making phone calls with people, doing admin work, or you know, doing intake calls. So there's lots of things that people can do if you have any time. Yeah, I will say our volunteer form is a little bit of a mess right now, and we're going to edit it soon. But yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
Erin?
Yes. So thanks for being here. I know you guys are doing a lot of work as volunteers, and I was wondering if there's like things that are of greater need, whether it's money or certain resources, kind of like the trends in terms of what you're seeing that people need.
Yeah, I mean, I think people certainly, I think, call us partly because they know that we have groceries. I think we have also certainly gotten asked specifically for money, which we don't do. Basically, we decided we didn't have enough funds, and also we just had no idea how to even begin to make some of those decisions. But I think, as you guys, I'm sure know, like people are really financially hurting right now. And also a lot of people are calling, well, maybe not a lot, and not insignificant people are calling us and saying, I am out of food, or I'm gonna run out of food for my kids tomorrow. And that's, you know, it's not just like, oh, I need groceries generally. It's like in a real urgent and emergency situation. And then I think the other thing is, I know from people talking around the city that I think there have been quite a few just sort of landlord issues. And I don't know any places specifically, but people trying to evict tenants when they're not allowed to during the eviction freeze, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before we move to constituents? No. All right, if any residents have a question, now is the time to raise your hand. We'll be happy to call on you. I'm not seeing any questions. So thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. You're
very welcome. All right, next, we will begin our reports, our standard reports. We'll start with the 4th District Police Department. Is there anyone here on the line currently from MPD?
If you're here, please dial *9 or raise your hand if you're using the app. You should be able to speak.
Hi, this is Derek, the outreach coordinator from the 4th District. I don't have a report. I'm not sure if any of the command staff or one of the lieutenants are on the call. If not, then if anybody has any specific questions about any specific crime or any specific thing that may have happened in that neighborhood, you can either email me directly. Well, you can email me directly. I would suggest you do that, and I will forward it to the appropriate lieutenant so that that question can be answered or addressed.
Derek, can you, this is Tiffany Johnson. Thank you so much for calling in. Can you provide everyone who's listening with your email address?
Absolutely. My email address is Derek, and that's DEREK .Staten, STATEN @dc.gov. That's Derek, DEREK .Staten, STATEN @dc.gov. And I'll also give out my MPD cell phone, 202-270-1640, 202-270-1640.
Thank you.
I'm very disappointed because I am just so bad.
Perry, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm very disappointed no one from 4D is on the call because I just got my police report filed online rejected after getting a call from the police after having my car stolen on Friday. Took 24 hours for someone to get back to me on an emergency. Young man, if you're on the call, Mr. Staten,
yes,
I'm going to give you a call. But
absolutely,
I am so bitterly upset about it. In that online, if I could share my screen and show you all, there's a reporting tool. There's a reporting tool at MPD. Let's see. Let me just show this to you all, if I may.
Well, is this I mean, is this an overarching concern?
It
Or
should be. It should be for every resident in our ward and every resident of the district, where the MPD has file a police report online, and when you go to that tool, the reporting tool.
Oh, okay, okay.
So let me ask you this question. When you received the rejection, did it give a reason as to why the
sure did.
report was rejected?
It sure did, and I'm about to demonstrate to you why. For every resident of the city, I want you to be aware of this, that this is problematic. As you can see in this reporting tool, there are specific types of incidents, and they're well defined, and one of them is theft. As you can see, the second from the bottom, there's theft and theft from auto, two different determinations. Under theft, and please, Mr. Staten or Officer Staten, refer this to your superiors, where wrongful taking of another's property without force or threat of force, ... including, or for example, cars. Well, they said that in my rejection letter, it says that cars cannot be reported online. Now, I received a voicemail from an officer who said you can make your report online, which I did not do initially. I called 911, and then I got transferred to 311, and 311 had me call back. By that time, whoever had my car was in another country by then.
So what you're saying, Perry, is that of all the categories listed, actual theft of the vehicle doesn't meet any of these criteria and therefore cannot be reported.
At least that's what they say. But when you go to the online reporting tool, there it is. And let me just also add that when you get to that, when you do click on it, there is a specific determination when you start a report, which I'm demonstrating to you right now, that there are tabs for theft of an automobile. It specifically says automobile. If I went through all the checks, you'd see it. So what I am saying to you, Ward 4 and to 4D, is that the online reporting tool needs a retooling. And in the case of one who has a theft, more time elapses as you go through this labyrinth of erroneous choices and then the erroneous responses. So I will call you Mr. Staten, but I wanted to share that update with the...
It sounds like it's a classification issue. And I can kind of explain what the procedure is now with the theft from, theft of an auto and theft from auto are two different things.
Yes,
so an auto theft, yes, so an auto theft is what we consider an offense. So it's not an incident. You can only do incident reports. And I'm not sure if that clarification is made on the website. I'm not looking at it. I'm actually calling in from my phone, so I'm not actually on but we can talk about it. Definitely, you want to give me a call tomorrow, I can, log in and we can kind of go through it line by line. But what's actually happening is that classifications for a few things have been stepped up so that the officers, because of COVID-19, don't have to respond out. And because of that prioritization, those calls, unless you walk outside, and unfortunately, and you're seeing someone take your vehicle, they get prioritized the same way they did before through 911, and 911 would then shift those calls to our telephone reporting unit, and an officer has to take any kind of theft report in that aspect. So you can report it, but if they feel like that it's something that that an officer has to take, a report that an officer has to take, then you would then have to be connected with an officer to take that report. And I'm not sure if you're saying that someone did reach out to you or they haven't reached out to you yet after the rejection. I wasn't clear on that.
At this point, I would suggest that we take that conversation offline and let Perry
Absolutely.
speak with you directly because we're running tight on time.
And thank you, Allison. Personally, yes,
Absolutely, sir.
that's a
Please give me
tag.
a call tomorrow, and
But
I'll
I'm
help you
not,
figure out what happened.
yep, thank you very much. Greater than
Yes, sir. Give me
personally,
a call tomorrow.
greater than personally, thank you, Mr. Sad. Personally,
No
yes,
problem, sir.
but greater than that, everyone who is on the call, everyone who is in this meeting, please be aware that there is a confused and confusing process that does not serve us well. That is my point. Thank you.
I got
Allison.
you.
Go forward.
I got you. Okay. And by having that conversation with Mr. Stanton directly, hopefully that can lead to the resolution of that issue, Perry. For the greater, not just unfortunately your car, but lead to the resolution of clearing up that confusion on the website. Okay. Next on our agenda would be Dolly Turner from Councilmember Todd's office.
Ms. Turner, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We hope that everybody is safe and that your families are doing well during this time. First of all, if you are not signed up, Councilmember Todd has been providing COVID updates 2 to 3 times a week. If you would like to receive those updates, you can email me at dlikedavidturner@dccouncil.us. This allows you to have up-to-the-date information in case for some reason you're not able to log on to the COVID website. Our office is open. We're up and running. You can call us at any time if you need anything at 202-724-8052. To provide you with a general update about what our office is doing to address some of the needs in the community. We have delivered water, we've delivered sanitary items like toilet paper, we have delivered masks. The Office on Aging is doing a fantastic job with addressing the needs of seniors. It does take just a minute for those requests to be fielded, as Mark Biorgi shared. So what we have been doing is we are delivering 360 to 500 meals a day from the past 6 weeks in order to address some of those needs. We currently have about 73 residents on our list, and we are working closely with Terrific Inc. as well as several restaurants in Ward 4 who have been donating food. Also Office on Aging and several community volunteers who have been assisting us with delivering those meals. So I just wanted to provide an update about that. In case seniors are having any difficulty with getting their meals, you could feel free to have them call our office if you happen to be aware of that. Again, that number is 202-724-8052. We also just want to thank the community volunteers and all the restaurants who have been working with our office to help get food out to people. Wanted to share a couple of updates related to the community. Four Cedar and Blair is looking very good. That work is going to be completed in the spring of 2020. We're in the spring of 2020 now. It looks like they're very close to completion. The Tacoma Education Campus Playground, that construction is underway. The Tacoma Dog Park construction will start this spring, any day now. Whittier Elementary, the repairs to the roof are underway. The scaffolding is up and that work has started.
Ms. Turner, it's been 3 minutes. Can you please wrap up?
Yeah, certainly. In terms of supporting local businesses, we're featuring several businesses each week, and we would appreciate it if our residents would support the local businesses with delivery and takeout as well. Commissioner Red, I have spoken several times to DOEE and also Elena Tasherney, and we would just like to get some update from you about how you'd like to move forward. Because we're in the midst of COVID, please let us know if you want to do a Zoom meeting. I think Ms. Tasherney was concerned that maybe you hadn't been feeling well, so we would love to touch base with you to move that forward. You know, DOEE is ready to, you know, schedule a time whenever you're ready. Do any residents have any questions? Last thing is the Met Branch Trail. The design is going to be completed in late 2020, early 2021. And right now, construction is slated to begin summer of 2021. So those are my updates.
Thank you, Dolly. Are there any questions?
Also, Commissioner Brooks did reach out to the director of DDOT about the intersection of Longfellow and North Capitol, and I anticipate we will have some kind of feedback this week about those stripings and the other kind of interim fixes for that intersection.
Thank you very much. Do any of the commissioners have questions for Ms. Turner? Aaron?
Hi, Dolly. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I was wondering, same question I had for the Department of Aging, what the criteria is for meal delivery via the council member, and how folks get added to your list.
They can just call our office. So essentially, in terms of the Office on Aging, there are, as I understand it, and I think I'm pretty accurate about this, depending on your income, you may be eligible for some free to subsidized meals. If your income falls is too high, you can still get meals through programs like Mom's Meals. It just means that you have to pay for them. So many seniors, while there are senior shopping hours at many of the local grocery stores, some people are afraid to go out. So we're encouraging them to have meals delivered, even if they have to pay the small fee, so they just remain safe. Once they call the Office on Aging, they will let them know how they qualify. So for example, some food is available through Food and Friends for maybe a lower income senior, whereas Mom's Meals could be available for a wider group. In terms of our office, if seniors are in need of food, all they have to do is call us. We'll help make sure that they get connected with the Office on Aging, that they are on the list, and that their requests are being processed.
I'd like to interject. This is LaRoya Huff of 4B09. And so in the conversation that I had with Laura Newland and Edwina Jenkins, it's a nutritional basis. So it's not like the old way of getting meals because of the COVID-19 and the vulnerable population. If you have a nutritional need, if you don't have anybody that can go out for you, those are some of the qualifiers that they're looking at more over than the income at this time. It's called the Emergency Food Program. So that's what makes it a little different from the normal, quote, normal way of getting food. So all of the people that were getting food at the feeder locations, i.e. Fort Stevens, Hattie Holmes, etc., those folks rolled right into the program because they were already receiving a meal every day. Since that time, COVID-19, the fear was, the vulnerable population not to go out. And so that opened up emergency food. And so it is a nutritional need, not as much a financial income base.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Loria. Loria is the expert in our office on this, so thank you, Loria.
Do any other commissioners have questions?
I have a question. I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Palmer's, because Dolly, you'd mentioned that you supply non-food resources as well, and through the council member's office, and I wanted to know how people get on the list for that, what the criteria is for eligibility. And I noticed one of the local restaurants was running a fundraiser that went to meals delivered through the council member, and I wanted to figure out how someone got on the list for the meals that are through the council member and what your criteria is for that.
Gloria, do you want to respond or you want me to respond?
Okay, so there is a criteria. The criteria is that you're a senior, you're vulnerable, we're trying to get you tied in to the Terrific Inc. to do the qualifier to make it a longer term solution. So as it stands, you call in and you get on the list, and there's plenty of food still, resources available at this time to provide a daily meal.
Was that helpful, Evan? Commissioner Yates?
I think so. I'm just like trying to figure out like, so if I refer somebody who, it doesn't matter what their income is or what it is, they will be able to get a meal or toiletries or whatever they need delivered.
It's
Seniors.
not, yeah, seniors. It's not
Only seniors. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not every toiletry. What we're trying to do is help people when they're in a bind. So let's say, for example, we talk to seniors and they're like, I'm out of toilet paper. Can you help me until I get my regular supply? Then we go out and we try to identify those items.
I just want to make sure I don't refer someone to you for something that you can't do, right? Like, I just want to make sure that everybody's going to the right place for what they need.
Yeah, thanks.
So I have someone made a statement that I'm going to read in the Q&A, and then we'll move on out.
You're muted, Allison.
And you're muted.
Oh my, I'm sorry, I must have hit the button. I apologize. I received a statement in the question and answer that I'll read for Dolly, and then we can move on from there. This person writes, I would ask for leadership by example and have less photo ops. I see an incredible lack of safety protocols as people see elected officials out and about. If elected officials are seen to be casual about safety, it makes the general public think it's not necessary to be so careful with proximity, masks, etc. Okay. Do any other commissioners have a comment? All right, we'll move. If residents have questions, if you could just click the raise your hands button and you'll be acknowledged. All right, then at this time, I think we should move on to the mayor's Ward 4 liaison, which is Mr. Keyshawn Harris. If you could make him a presenter, Gordon, I'd appreciate it.
You should be able to speak.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's Keyshawn Harris, the Ward 4, Mokers for Ward 4. I want to say thank you to Rachel, Mark, and Ms. Henson, to the commissioners and community members and everyone for doing their part to help us flatten this curve and ensuring that residents are staying home and practicing good social distancing practices. And I also want to thank our first responders and our essential employees for all that they are doing on the front line. So I have a few brief updates from the mayor's office to talk about what we're doing to respond to these uncertain times with COVID-19 outbreak. Today, Mayor Bowser announced that the Department of Healthcare Finance awarded $25 million in grants to 10 hospitals across the city to support and prepare for the district's potential medical surge. I also want to note that we have started working with the Army Corps of Engineers to have the Washington Convention Center retrofitted in the event that we need extra beds due to a medical surge. The mayor also announced a contact tracing task force that we are launching. Currently, DC Health has about 65 contact tracers that go out after someone tests positive. They make contact with someone who's tested positive to ask them all of their relationships and their contact, whom they've made contact with. So the mayor is looking at increasing that team to about 200 to 700 tracers as we look towards reopening the district. And so for more information about that, residents can visit coronavirus.dc, DC.gov, excuse me, for updates. And we will also post that application on careers.dc.gov. I'm posting in the chat a few resources for neighbors. And then Residents can go to one of the 10 testing sites in the district. However, we are letting people know that you can go to one of the 2 public testing sites, one in Ward 8 at the United Medical Center and one at the UDC Bertie Backus campus in Ward 5, just across the border. And the number for that is 855-363-0333. And all of this information is in the chat box for you all. And just a reminder about our schools, the mayor announced that DCPS's Learning at Home will end on May 19th. And DC public charter schools are also expected to close on or about May 29th. The mayor will host a briefing on May 15th with an additional update about our school system and the COVID-19 impact. And you can always catch those on the mayor's social media channels or at mayor.dc.gov. And then finally, as Commissioner Huff mentioned, on Wednesdays in Ward 4, we have an additional grocery site from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. at Coolidge High School and Ida B. Wells Middle School. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Actually, Sean Leroy, Commissioner for Bill 9, can you give out the phone number? Because some residents have inquired, they're homebound and they can't get out, and they may not have access to the coronavirus website. So the number would be helpful if they can't get out, if they could call the number that's available to perhaps have those groceries delivered to their home.
Sure. That number is 1-888-349-8323. And yes.
No, go ahead. Finish that thought. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was done. You can go ahead.
I received a question. If schools are opened in the fall, do they plan to make sure that every student is tested?
Ooh, thank you for that question. I will definitely take that back to the team because we're jockeying for testing when it comes from support. So I will definitely take that one back to the team to ask them about if we are to send students back in the fall, will we make sure that we test all of them? Thank you for that.
Also, if everyone is not aware, DCPS began enrollment for the upcoming school year today, online. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you for that, because that was actually my question, that part of the question I was going to ask. With the current status of distance learning and then enrollment starting, are there any provisions? We're not apparently going to be doing park testing or anything like that. So how are kids going to be matriculating to their next grade level? I've gotten some concerns from some of my constituents that are concerned that their kids might not matriculate to the next grade level.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, for that. We want to ensure that, you know, it was a challenge for us dealing with the outbreak because we had to completely switch over an entire system to fully online. So we thank our parents and our teachers and educators for their flexibility with that. And so, as I said, the mayor will give an update on education on May 15th. If we have anything earlier than that, we will definitely get it out to you guys. And as always, have that information on coronavirus.dc.gov.
Aaron?
Thank you. Thanks, Keyshawn, for joining us and for all your help with constituent stuff over the last few weeks. I was wondering, someone had asked a resident about the Reopen DC advisory group and specifically the education committee expressing concerns that there aren't teachers or parents representing that group. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that or response.
Actually, I'd like to expand that comment to say sort of across the board, there's a concern about representation on that group. So for example, there are no frontline workers, no healthcare experts. Take it from there.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we today the mayor announced the Reopen DC Advisory Group, which is a collection of community members and experts in science, technology, and government who have dealt with things of this magnitude before, not necessarily a pandemic. But yeah, I can definitely take those concerns back to our team. We are inviting residents to submit their fresh ideas and concerns to a survey, which will be on the coronavirus.dc.gov site. And we will also host a community town hall with that group on April 29th.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had one, Kashan. As you know, DCPS gave up its Head Start grant, and with it about $14 million in funding and laid off 83 staff members as part of that. Do you have any plan does the district government have any plan to get back into the Head Start program next year? And if so, what will be the timeline on that?
Thank you, Commissioner. DCPS, with that decision not to participate in the grant program, they will not reduce the number of pre-K seats at DCPS schools next year. And it allows us to strive for exemplary programming. And for the impacted, we will have some reductions in impacted schools. But I don't have a timeline for you, but I can get one for you.
Question? Question for Mr. Harris or Mr. Yates or Commissioner Yates. Help me understand, why did we forego that?
I think you'd have to ask Mr. Harris why they gave it up. I don't want to speak for the administration.
Thank you. And I'll defer to you, Mr. Harris. As a constituent, why did we forego the grant? Okay.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. The National Head Start Office notified us that we would not be awarded for another grant cycle. And so we have to make a few changes. And so that's why we are looking at different ways to ensure that we are following guideline and protocol and make sure that everyone is on the same page as we move forward. And we're ensuring that we will not reduce any pre-K seats in our school system.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. I think I understand why someone my wife just pointed out to me why we didn't get the money. And it appears to be our failure. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners?
I have one, LaRoya Huff, 4B09. It has to do with the SYEP program. So what is that looking like? Is the reality, or does it look like there won't be a program this summer for SYEP?
Thank you, Commissioner Huff. The mayor hasn't made a decision on SYEP. There hasn't been any mention of disbanding the program or anything of that manner. We know that we will have to have some tough conversations around the budget because as of right now, the mayor has moved $192 million to help tackle the COVID outbreak. And we may have to move more in the future. But yeah, we haven't had any conversations about doing away with SYEP. But if we have anything that comes up in the future dealing with youth employment, then I will definitely share that with the commissioners and the community members.
Thank you very much. And lastly, when you talk about the mask and our youth, I'm noticing that there's still, I know there's a shortage perhaps of masks and meeting the need for our young people, because sometimes I see in the community where there are young people that are in groups, if you will, even if it's 6 or more, but they're not doing the 9 to 12 feet distancing. And so I've been asked, for masks for them, for neighbors have asked, is there anything that can be done about masks? So are you guys providing any masks at all?
I want to make sure you said mask for seniors or
Mask.
for
Mask for your
youth.
face, to cover
For
yourself.
youth.
for youth? The district government's focus right now is making sure that we get and maintain enough personal protective equipment for our first responders. And so
Okay.
we advise residents that they can use cloth masks. I know a lot of our neighbors here in Ward 4, I know Georgia Avenue Alterations is making cloth masks, and some other community members are making cloth masks. You can also use a bandana, but we are saying that the medical mask should be used for medical personnel and our essential employees. That's our mantra, and we'll continue to push that forward with what comes down from the CDC.
So can we talk a little bit about how we're, as a city, making a concerted effort to reach youth? I know a 17-year-old died today from COVID-19, and it was believed that, his peer group was not really abiding by social distancing rules, and there had been some parties and things of that nature. So is there any concerted effort at this time to make inroads with younger people to understand the severity of the situation?
Great question.
Thank you for that. So what we go through our roving leaders who are reaching out, making active contact to our young people who are using some violence interrupts, who are making contact to people who are loitering or not adhering to social distancing guidelines. But here's the thing: we don't want to lock anyone up or for not practicing social distancing. We don't want our police to turn their attention to making sure that somebody's maintaining 6 feet. We're just saying, residents, you have to stay home. You only need to go out for essential trips because this is serious. We are doing our best to try to flatten the curve, and we can only do it with your help. Because we want to make sure that we're able to reopen our city's vibrant economy in a way that helps minimize the risk as we continue to flatten the curve. But if you do have any ideas on how we should reach out to young people, we would definitely appreciate it because we're always excited to take those fresh ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Question
Go ahead.
Tell on that. I know that not much information has been released about this 17-year-old. There are many 17-year-olds, young people, period, who are not observing any type of PPE preparations or protections as they walk the streets. And it's really difficult to inform them when we have no details. This young person was in Pennsylvania who passed away, 17-year-old. Was from here in Pennsylvania. Was a person a ward of the state? Was a person in juvenile detention? Just limited information that would be informative for us to help me when I'm out on the street trying to encourage young people to at least wear a mask.
I don't have any particular specific information about the young gentleman that passed away, but we are stressing the importance to young people. I know I have a challenge talking to some of my younger family members about staying home, and hanging out with friends, limiting your exposure because it's very important because young people can contract the virus as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? Great. Let me just check the chat. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is from State Board of Education Representative Fraser O'Leary, who I believe is still on the call.
Hold on one second, Fraser. I'll get to you. Fraser, you should. Fraser, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. I've sort of altered my presentation a little bit because of your questions. The first thing is that the grading this year, the grades will be given based on the first 3 advisories. not on, and the last advisory is going to be no grades can go lower than they were at the end of the first 3 advisories. And they can raise their grades, but they can't lower their grades from what they're doing when they're doing their virtual learning. The second thing was about the advisory groups. The advisory group has no teachers, it has no parents, it has, the State Board of Education wasn't asked to be a member of the education group on the mayor's advisory groups. The thing about Head Start is Head Start didn't cancel the grant. DC pulled their grant because they didn't think they could get the information in on time. And so we've lost over 80 jobs in Head Start, and there will be no Head Start classrooms in DC public schools next year. I have, you notice that I remember I had this book collection thing going on before we were quarantined. I didn't cancel it, but I put a pause in the book collection. But I've been distributing books for the last 3 weeks to the feeding sites. And tomorrow, the schools will be open for parents to pick up their last learning packages of the school year. And I'm going to be distributing books in Spanish and English to all of the elementary schools in Ward 4. And I think I'm just going to stop right there. And if there are any questions with my time, I'd like to answer those questions if I can.
Thank you for that, Mr. O'Leary. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. O'Leary, this is Tiffany Johnson. I apologize, my camera isn't working.
That's all right.
First and foremost, thank you so much for your response regarding how the grading system is going to work, because I've received a number of concerns from my constituents regarding that.
Did what I said make sense to you?
It does make sense, and
Okay.
and I'm happy to hear that. I think that makes the best sense for everyone in terms of efficiency. My other question, and you did kind of answer that, there seems to be a lapse in communication, at least because my daughter goes to DCPS, and you know, what is online, what is in these packets, when to pick up the packets, et cetera, et cetera. Has there been, if this does go on into our next school year, are they working to kind of fine tune this process? Have there been any talks so that the work isn't duplicative and so parents have a little better understanding as to what is due, what's not due, and how to provide it to the teachers?
There's no, I know that, and I want to commend DCPS for everything that they've done in this emergency, because just, you know, everything was brand new. So everything that they're doing is they're doing it for the first time. And there've been a lot of, the first week, the computers were a real problem, but they took care of that. Most students have access now. Whether or not they're using that access is a different story. I know that they're working really hard now trying to figure out what's going to happen if the schools open up in August, because we're not in control of this virus at all. So that, and the State Board of Education doesn't have a lot to do with, we'd love to have something to do with planning, but we haven't been asked yet to help with the planning. But I know they're working really hard to try to figure out how they're going to, what they're going to do when schools open. My advice is that they take at least the first month of school as a review month to get all the students up to whatever grade they were supposed to be in at the beginning of August, so that at the beginning of October for real, if we go back to school on time, they'll all be ready to be in that grade that they were going to. But that's just my own personal opinion. But they're working really hard on trying to figure this out. My advice, and we had the deputy mayor at our state board meeting last week, which was virtual just like this. And my advice was that they don't try to go back to normal. This is going to be a whole new year in education, and that they really work on fixing things that weren't working before schools were closed, and making sure that the brand new school year will be brand new.
All right, thank you. Do any other commissioners have questions before we take questions from anyone else? All right, thank you. Any residents have questions? Please use the raise your hand button.
Madam Co-Chair, Alexandra Simbana used the Q&A box, and she asked, what are options for families to continue distance learning in the fall? Parents do not feel comfortable sending kids to school with so much unknown, especially with homes with immune compromised family members.
Excellent question.
That's a great question.
I think that's one thing about where we are now in DC compared to some of these other states that have no clue about what they're doing, is I think that we are going to be erring on the side of caution before any openings of school are made. I think that I really believe that that's where we are. The mayor is not talking about doing anything that's without caution.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect, Mr. O'Leary, that DC, Maryland, and Virginia are sort of tied together in the decisions that they make about schools, given the whole, the Northern Virginia proximity, or is that a stretch?
No, I think that all three, the two governors and the mayor are as far as I'm concerned, are sort of in lockstep. They're not going to make any rash decisions because of something that someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue might throw out. I'm comfortable with that. And I know that, I know quite a few people in DCPS and in the charter schools, and they're not chomping at the bit to get back into those buildings until everyone is safe. And I'm just going to piggyback on the question, and that because there wasn't really too much done for those students with special needs. We have a lot of students with special needs in the schools who are sort of out of touch because they need one-on-one kind of training from the teachers and from the aides. But I think that the school system is working in that direction. And if I might put a plug in for Head Start, since my wife was a Head Start teacher for over 30 years, is I'm totally against canceling the Head Start program. And I'll do everything I can to try to get it reinstated.
Very good.
All right.
I just, as a caveat to that, with regard to distance learning continuing, into the new school year, the city also has to think about how that's going to affect parents, in terms of, if you have single households or two parent households, who's going to be watching these kids? And that's an added expense that, people probably have not prepared for in the past. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you probably don't have the ability to save up now and have enough money for babysitter for 8 hours a day while you go to work. So just something else to think about as well.
There are so many things to think about. I mean, you're just giving me okay, what about a homeless child?
Oh, I agree. There's 50 gazillion things to think about.
Right.
That was just the one that just popped into my head as a single parent.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm now a single parent, but all of my children are over 22 years old. But I can't imagine what it was like when they were in school, because they were all in school at the same time, different grades, and it would have been. And both my wife and I worked. It would have been really, really hard to do. So I mean, this is a unique experience in the history of this country, not just in the history of DC.
So I want to just follow up. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, that's all right.
I was going to follow up with a response from a resident that said, and that's why parents and teachers should be on the reopening committee, because that committee doesn't currently represent the vast majority of parents and or people who have children in school.
Well,
Also,
I agree with that completely. I have no idea why there aren't any educators on the chancellor is not a member of the education committee.
well, my hope is that what was announced today was the beginning of that structure, and each subcommittee still needs to be fleshed out, but that is my personal opinion, and so I don't put that forth as, you know, what will actually happen, but that is in fact my hope. I also have one other comment from Dolly at Councilmember Todd's office, and she says, per the Deputy Mayor of Education and Chancellor, Head Start will continue and no seats will be lost. The district will fund the shortfall this year. This was this was the last year of a 5-year grant. The district will apply for the next or new 5-year grant next year.
Right. That's what they say. And by saying there are no seats lost, that means no children are going to be not have a seat, but the Head Start people are not going to be there. And the grant could have been applied for, but there were some things that went on with school security that were problems with the grant that hadn't, and it wasn't submitted until a couple of weeks ago, and that's by the chancellor. He's told the city council that last Monday. So what Dolly is saying is true in some ways. There are 80 jobs lost by aides and teachers. There are no seats lost because the kids are still going to be in school, but Head Start's not going to be there. And they do have a chance next year to reapply. And the chancellor did say that they're going to reapply for it in the next year, but this year we lost $14 million. And we really can't afford to lose $1.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. O'Leary. I appreciate your hanging in there. For those on the call, we're nearing the end of this meeting, so hang tight. If you have any questions, continue to raise your hands. We're now going to move towards the item number 7 on the agenda is our consent calendar. I'm going to read each of these, and if anything needs to be pulled off, please let me know before we move to the vote. We have a resolution 4B, and please forgive me for turning my head, but I have dual screens going right now. Resolution 4B 20-0401, supporting requests special exemption to lot occupancy requirements to allow construction of accessory dwelling unit 7521 9th Street Northwest, BZA 20209. That's Commissioner Yates. 4B 200402, supporting resident-only parking study for the 7400, 7500, and 7700 blocks of Eastern Avenue, 800 block of Juniper Avenue Northwest, and the 7500 block of 8th Street Northwest. 0403, supporting the bike storage facility at the east entrance at Tacoma Metro Rail Station, HPA 20-221. Next, 0404, supporting the demolition of the 2-story sleeping porch and construction of open deck and replacement of roof and windows at 600 Cedar Street Northwest. Letter to Public Charter School Board expressing concerns with regard to Rocket Ship Academy. 04, which I think we have a numbering issue here, Aaron, but we can fix that. Because I think the letter to the public school should be 0405, and they're off by one after that. But I guess we can put the letter to the public school at the end and fix
We
the
don't
number.
we don't number letters.
Okay, fair enough. So resolution 0405, requesting speed humps on First Street Northeast. 0406, supporting DDOT's public space permit application number 348544 for the proposed Chick-fil-A at 2020 Riggs Road. 0407, supporting funding for FY21 to address chronic homelessness. 0408, calling out long-term commitment to full vote by mail elections. 4B09, expressing gratitude to essential employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. 0410, supporting the proposed design for 300-308 Carroll Street Northwest. I'm sorry, I went too far. That is not on the consent calendar. I apologize. So the last item on the consent calendar is 0409, expressing gratitude to essential employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. Does anyone have any questions or concerns before we move to a vote? All right. All in favor of the consent calendar as presented?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. Now we can move to resolution 4B200410, supporting the proposed design for 300 through 308 Carroll Street Northwest and 325 Vine Street. Jeff, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. I'll take a minute just to describe the project, where we are, why there's a resolution, if that's okay, and then we can bring it back to the group. So we've had this issue before us a number of times now. For anyone on the call who's unaware, this is a proposal to that includes, as Allison mentioned, 300, 308 Carroll Streets, and then a lot behind it, which is technically 325 Vine Street. They're all adjacent properties. It includes 3 retail units that front Carroll, 2 houses up above, and then the Vine Street lot is a parking lot with two trailers on it. Normally, we would, I think, have the developer in to present before doing a vote. We sort of decided against having him here since this was our first virtual meeting and didn't know how things were going to go. And on top of that, we've heard from him many times. It's been sort of a long process, in part because the site is complicated with the retail units, the different access points, the different houses, which are both historic properties, but then the Vine Street location, which is sort of different. And so I've had the developer at, or he's been at 3 single member district community meetings so far over the last year and a half. And he's presented at our commission meetings 3 times over that same time period. We, as a commission, provided initial input because the developer took the project to historic for the review as sort of to get initial feedback. So he didn't go seeking approval of the project. He went just because of the nature of the site to see if they thought he was on the right track. So we provided our feedback to historic, and then he went to historic on January 30th. And they provided some feedback. I think the biggest change from when we voted last as a commission, well, to me, the biggest impact of going there was that we had supported removal of the fronts of the retail stores where they have bays that jut onto the sidewalk, and that sidewalk is extremely narrow for its place in Tacoma. This is basically across the street from the metro station. So historic didn't seem real keen on that, and so the developer decided to retain the bays but fix them up, and instead is proposing to relocate some of the items on the sidewalk in front of the retail bays to improve flow. Beyond that, I just wanted to say a couple things. One, that this has been a long process, and it's a really big deal to me and for my neighborhood. This is about 2 blocks from where I live, so it represents a big change, and I know with big changes there are, you know, always positive aspects and you know, the way that change can be negative. And I support the project. I think that it will do a number of things that are positive for us. I think that we will get as big of a sidewalk on Vine Street as we're going to be able to get. I think we're going to get improvements on the sidewalk on Carroll Street that are really important. In every one of the meetings I've been at, I don't know if anyone else has attended all 6 of those, but in every one of the 6 meetings, I've started by stressing the importance of the developer doing what he can to retain the retail tenants, which is Spicy Delight and the Tacoma Station Barber shop. And I wouldn't be supporting it if I didn't believe that he had every intent to do that. And the commission should know also that, you know, I think surprising to me, I haven't gotten as much feedback as you would expect. I've gotten one of my 2,500 constituents who emailed me to say, I don't support this, which is less than I think any of the other developments that have come through my SMD in the 1.5 years that I've served. And the way that it would restore the 2 houses on top of the hill plus the retail on Carroll Street would be huge improvements for our neighborhood. I mean, it would really look nice. It would fulfill the mission of historic preservation in my mind. And so I do think it does a lot of positive things. And I think that the comments received in the meetings have sort of reflected that as well. So I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to provide some context to what I've heard, how we've arrived to where we are today, and we can go forward with discussion as needed or desired. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comment?
So I just wanted to speak to Justin because, like him, I live 1.5 blocks or 2 blocks from this project, and I think it is an important project. I think we've made substantial improvements as it's come through the process with the commission in terms of enhancing the sidewalk and walkability both in front and behind this building. I know that I've heard from constituents, albeit both for and against, but I will say that I've heard from more that are in favor of it. Most folks are, I'll be honest, excited about the end of the rat hill, as they call it, in front of the existing youth hostel. I apologize if you guys are getting some static from me. I could hear a little there, but I think this is a carefully crafted resolution that goes right up to the limits of what we are able to do. I wish we could do more, to be honest. I wish we could push for changes on the interior for more family-sized units or to force them to do more affordable units. But unfortunately, the historic preservation review process is focused on the outside, which is where we've had most of our success. And so I think that this is a good step forward and a move in the right direction for the neighborhood.
Harry, I thought I saw you about to ask something.
Yes, thank you. So Jeff, let me ask, this gentleman came before us, I believe, at least twice before, correct?
3 times.
Thank you. And
Yep.
So the sidewalk issue was one that was rectified, am I correct?
Well, this is a proposal, right? So he's got to get approval from historic and then go forward. But I mean,
he made effort.
proposed solution, instead of removing the retail bays that would have added 2 feet of sidewalk, he's going to relocate a street public trash can that sits right in front of there, so that it's a little further down where the sidewalk will be much wider. And then there's a telephone pole that also sits right there. And because it's just telephone, he is going to get rid of it. He says he will get rid of it. And so the resolution that I've written says, our support for keeping the bays the way they are is contingent on the fact that you have said you will be doing this, and your design says you will be doing it. And we will remember that you said it.
And my last question was about the issue that we had with the affordable housing added. Did we actually get an amendment to his proposal on that?
So there's no amendment around that. We don't really, because this is located within the historic district, it has to go to HPRB for approval of the design of the building. That doesn't have any consideration. I think, as Evan basically said, it doesn't have a consideration for the affordable units within it. So it would just be the standard number of IZ units that the city's
Right.
formula.
And he did meet the IZ requirement, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there have been a number of iterations here over time. And so there were some designs that showed like all studios. And then there were some that showed a lot, even more family sized units than there are now. And whatever the final unit count is would dictate then how many affordable units there are, right? Because if there are more small units, then at least you get maybe 1 or 2 more affordable units.
So we're voting on something that's not final, correct?
I have drafted a resolution of support. So I'm asking for people's support, but we'll see where this goes.
Thank you.
The developer, I should have announced this or said this earlier. The developer was going to go to historic last month, and we didn't meet. And then HPRB canceled its meeting. And so he is now on the calendar for for Thursday of this week, the 30th. So that's why we're voting now. Thank you.
Lavoria Huff, 4BL9. I have a question about the retail that you mentioned, Spicy Delight, and the barber shop. And so you said there was, what is the developer's proposal to do with those 2 businesses?
So, as I said, I've stressed the importance of doing everything he can on his end to retain them. And to the extent that he's like, yeah, I got it. I understand that that's super important to you. And so he's basically said that he would provide them every option. If this proceeds, there would be construction, and so they'd have to live around that, but the retail bays wouldn't be as impacted. I mean, they would improve the look of the facade there, but he would intend to provide them that option, and has said that he wouldn't try to raise the rent. That's what he has committed to me. I had talked to him at length too about how you might write up sort of more of a contractual arrangement.
Okay, that's
and
where I
I
was
think
going.
that's realistic. But I do think he's really committed to it. And I think even if it were sort of, I don't know, just the moment we're in with COVID and the world changing around us, I don't know. I just know that he is committed to it. He's frankly.
I guess my concern is that while we are all commissioners at this point, by the time that development gets redeveloped, what do you have other than what he said to you verbally? If you don't have anything in writing, if that has any significance to at least have that put in writing, as opposed to telling you as a commissioner today and then 5 years later or whenever that's going to be, you know, at final stage to do whatever he's going to do with that frontage. There's no record, possible no recollection of it being said to you. So what do you have to say that's in writing? I don't know how binding that is, but at least it is on record that that discussion has happened and that commitment is there. Is there any way to get that?
Well, I guess as a baseline, I would say that it's included in the resolution that, you know, he has pledged that, and we hope that he honors it, or we expect that he would honor it. I mean, there's also the memory of the attendees of every one of these meetings, the 6 public meetings now at which he said, yeah, I'm going to work to do this. I think it would be a real embarrassment if he went back on that.
Would it be helpful to have some, this is Tiffany Johnson, would it be helpful to have some type of letter that he wrote, which is notarized and put on file along with the resolution? So
Isn't there also, before you answer Tiffany's question, can I add something to that, Tiffany, which is, isn't there also going to be something that is in the resolution and or can the letter that Tiffany is suggesting be attached to the resolution?
Well, I mean, I would love to hear what other people think, because I'm not really solely equipped to answer any of these questions. But you know, what we need right now is, or we have an opportunity to provide input to historic, right? So that's going to happen on Thursday, and we will either adopt the resolution I've drafted, we will adopt it as amended, or we won't adopt it, or other people can offer something else. But that's sort of the opportunity we have right now.
well, what I was thinking was, oh, Aaron, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
It's okay, Tiffany, you can go ahead.
What I was thinking was, if we go ahead and adopt the resolution, but then in answer to LaRoya's question / concern, have a letter that's notarized also on file, so that we do have this documented record of what this developer plans on doing. So yes, if 5 years from now, none of us are on the committee and this issue comes up, we do have a documented record that we can show and say, here's what you said you were going to do, here's what we approved. Why aren't you doing this?
Yeah, well, I guess just from my point of view, I'm happy to work with all of you to figure out the right way of getting something in writing from him, but I don't think it's particularly fair to hold up the resolution now that we've talked about it in multiple meetings. I mean,
no, I'm not saying hold up the resolution.
Yeah.
I'm not saying hold up the resolution. I'm just saying in answer to LaRoya's question.
Yeah,
but Erin had her hand raised.
I understand, and I'm not putting that all on you. I'm just, you know, I know that there's been some discussion about whether or not, you know, this should go forward.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of responding more generally that, you know, we've been talking about this for a long time, and so now we're in our meeting.
And we're nearing the end because it's already 9:30 and we're going to have to be wrapping up shortly. Aaron, go ahead.
I will be brief. I just want to echo what Commissioner Bromagem has said, which is that this is a resolution related to review by the Historic Review Board. So the jurisdiction is somewhat limited. That aside, we have weighed in via the resolution, the draft resolution, about issues such as protecting the tenants and housing affordability. So those items are in there. They don't mean much in terms of the review by the Historic Review Board, but they are in writing, and by voting, we would be memorializing those.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
One thing that I would like to suggest is a possible amendment, because we've talked about the sidewalk on multiple occasions, and I would like to propose an amendment to get the developer to look into relocating or removing the telephone pole, relocating or removing the traffic signal equipment.
Jeff?
I completely welcome that. And again, had some of this conversation happened a little earlier, I would have included that. For those listening who aren't maybe aware, another piece of junk on the sidewalk that constrains foot traffic there is it's a control box for the traffic light at the intersection of Cedar and Carroll. It's not in a great spot given how narrow the sidewalk is. I guess well, without saying anything more, I support that idea, and I you have draft text as well, right, Scott?
Yes, and I'll add it to the chat right now so that everybody can see it.
While you're doing that, we have 2 residents who've waited patiently to speak.
I have a text that I will put in the chat also, but we can talk about that after the comments.
But do we, just as a protocol, do we vote on amendments after comments, I think? So let's hear what residents have to say, and then we can move forward from there.
Hello? Hi. Hi, commissioners. First of all, I think this meeting is going really well. You did a great job for the first time doing a virtual meeting. Congrats to whoever pulled this off technically. The first thing I want to say is that you're voting on something, you're voting on Vine Street, and you haven't even seen a color rendering of what Vine Street's going to look like. I mean, that's pretty poor, frankly. I've rarely ever, in like the 15, 20 years I've been going to HPRB, this is the first time I can remember seeing somebody who hasn't even submitted a color rendering of what the building is going to look like. So that's, at least I didn't see it on the webpage, on the Office of Planning, the HPRB webpage. You haven't even seen a color rendering. So that's the first problem. And a lot of that is, you talk about delays. Well, the delays have been from the developer who has just not completed the work. So he's never given a full package, and we don't have a full package now. So you have the option of asking for a 1-month delay so that he can give us a color rendering, and so that you can talk about what's going to happen with the tenants, among other things. Because as soon as he gets the HPRB approval, he's not going to talk to you about any kind of memo or any kind of anything. He said at the meeting I was at, the last one, he didn't say, oh, I'm going to try. He said he was going to make sure those tenants stayed there throughout construction. So if he said it that clearly and that simply at the public meeting, he ought to be able to just do a 2-sentence letter that somebody will have. And you can give it to the tenants so that if commissioners change hands or whatever, it's a letter. It's not legally binding. You're never going to get anything legally binding. It's fraught with problems, but it's something. At least it isn't based on memory.
Thanks, Sarah. That's been a minute. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, I guess I would respond to there are basically 2 parts that Sarah raised, and one is about getting a letter. And as we've talked about, I'm happy to ask for him to give a letter that says that, because I do think he is entirely, I believe he is willing to do everything he can there. As far as Vine Street, yeah, you're right. The rendering doesn't have color. And our resolution doesn't weigh in on the appearance on Vine Street. There are things that we want to support with this project, and I know that Historic Tacoma is taking a look at that, and I'm happy to have them weigh in on what they think it should be like. I'm happy to have HPRB weigh in on what they think it should look like, but I don't think me holding one more SMD meeting is going to come to great resolution on what the appearance should look like, because I don't think we've really gotten that out of the last 6. So that's.
He gave. I remember color renderings of it.
That's the next door project. I think if I can see it right. There's a. So I'll stop there. I mean, there's a lot more I could say about Vine Street because I'm pretty passionate about it. You know, as I said earlier, I live 2 blocks from there. It makes a big deal to me, and I think the 15 or 16, whatever the he's got about 8.5 feet and then 5.5 feet for planting for the recess. I mean, I think that's about as much as we're going to get for removing the building from the street. That's really reasonable to make the thing work. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm also comfortable with how the site will function along with the neighboring properties. And I'm happy to talk more about that, though I'm not sure it's necessary at this point. So I'll stop.
Hey, Alice, you've been waiting with your hand up. You can speak now if you'd like to.
Okay, I just had a question for Jeff. I went to several, or more than several, I guess, of the meetings, and I think that the developer has been very responsive to the community, and it seemed to me that the community has been majorly in favor of this development. But the question I had, Jeff, was the last time, it regards the sidewalk, and the last time I heard he had, because of the comments that he got from HPRB, he had changed his design of the bay fronts to kind of split the difference, as it were. And if I heard you correctly, he's changed that again. Is that right?
Yeah, as memory serves, I believe that is right, Alice. Yeah, so he had talked about sort of cutting the bays in half, so preserving the look of a bay but not having it go as deep. And then when he looked into it further, he said, you know, I don't think these things are going to hold up well, and there are other ways to make big improvements. But you know, this is just my opinion, I guess. But when I was at the historic review meeting in January, where the developer got the initial feedback, I thought Historic was very resistant to removing the bays, and I think that he amended because of that. But that's just my opinion. Thank you, Alice.
Okay, I think we should move to a vote at this point. Jeff, do you have a motion that you want to put forward?
Sure, I would. So I think everyone can see the amended text that has been put into the chat, right? So Scott added his, and Aaron added her amendment. So Scott's I would add a bullet, that sub bullet that addresses the sidewalk on Carroll Street, that addresses working to remove the switchgear for the traffic light. Aaron's would strengthen the language around affordability. So with those two texts, which the text amendments, which I have the text now in email as well, I would move to approve the resolution as amended.
A
There a
second.
second? Was that you, Tiffany?
Yes, that was me. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? LaRoya?
Yes,
And
I
Perry?
didn't hear the piece that I asked for with the right, having it in writing for the businesses. I know you said it's in the resolution, but I'm not in support.
I'm sorry, what,
a roll call
what
vote.
piece was that? I'm sorry, Leroy, I didn't hear what you said.
So the vote is to vote to move forward with this resolution, correct?
The vote is on the resolution.
Okay, so I don't support it as it's written.
Understood.
Okay.
So I believe that is,
Can we do a roll call vote on that, please, if you don't mind?
I do not, I believe everybody supported except for Perry and LaRoya, and Brenda is not on the call, I don't
Brenda
think.
said yes via text. She's on via
Okay.
phone.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, 4B01,
Aye.
4B02, aye. 4B03,
Aye.
4B04, Brenda says aye. 4B05,
That's Perry, and I believe he's muted, but he's saying no.
okay. 4B06,
Perry,
Nay.
are you a nay? Perry?
4B05, nay.
yeah,
Got
got
you.
you. 4B06,
Aye.
4B07,
Aye.
4B08,
Aye.
4B09.
No.
Okay, so there's no votes, so it passes.
Okay, at this point, we are at the last agenda item, which is community concerns. Each person will have 1 minute. Gordon will manage the clock and give people access. If you have something that you want to say, please raise your hand and Gordon will acknowledge you.
Miss Green, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I thank you. I wanted to thank you for including those two items in the resolution you adopted. I am very hopeful that the tenants will have some protection at some point, but I'm really skeptical. I'm really, because you have no leverage now. So I'm very skeptical that the tenants will be able to stay at anything they can afford. I hope you're right, Jeff. I really hope you're right. And I really hope that you will proceed to get a letter because they're just longtime businesses and they deserve better. They really do.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for including the points that you did. And you really pulled off a great virtual meeting. I'm just very impressed. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Does anyone else have a question? Please raise your hand. The raise hand option is in the chat box.
I need to talk with him before.
Miss Lawson?
Hi, everybody. This is Julie Lawson from Whittier Education Campus PTA. I wanted to first thank you for having the meeting.
Did we lose Julie?
No, I'm here. Hi.
Go
Hi.
ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, so I'm with the Whittier Education Campus PTA. Thank you for doing the meeting tonight. You guys did a great job. I'm really glad that our roof is underway before the budget cuts. But I also wanted to just let you know, I know a number of you donated to our fundraising campaign in February, and we were able to leverage all of those donations into 26 Chromebooks for our students so that they can participate in distance learning, and 16 gift cards to Walmart for our families who are experiencing disruptions from the economy. So just wanted to say thank you and let the community know that your support for the community, for our school, is really appreciated. I did post an updated link for enrollment in DCPS. Is enrolldcps.dc.gov. It opened tonight online. I was able to enroll Owen for 4th grade in about 5 minutes while I was listening to you guys. So really simple, and I hope folks will participate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Lawson.
At this time, I don't see any other questions, hands raised for questions. So I believe we can officially adjourn our first virtual meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Perry. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you for attending, and we hope to see you at a future meeting. Be safe, everyone.
Take
Be
care,
well.
everyone. Be safe.